Okay. I understand Cleveland fans, like, you're bumming. You had a loss and you lost what was your guy for as long, I mean, for many years um, in Nick Chubb, and arguably the best running back in the NFL as far as a pure runner goes. I believe he was the best running back in the NFL. So I understand that you're sad about that. But that's not what this video is titled. This titled is The Cleveland Browns Just Found a Future Star. And I am telling you right now, I was there watching, and I have a story for you. I got a story for you, but before that, hit subscribe if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet. We do a ton of Browns content as well as other teams around the league. We're Lions fans that love the NFL. We're trying to give you an honest opinion of what's going on with your team. And I was watching the game live with some friends. We were at a work retreat at our church, and it was kind of cool because we're watching the game. Not cool. Cool is the wrong word. Please ignore that I said that. It was awful. I just executed a trade where it sent Olave away from my team, so I moved Elijah Moore into my starting wide receiver slot, and then I moved Jerome Ford into my flex. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I hope I don't lose this game. And I was going up against a guy who had Chubb, and Chubb gets hurt, and I'm just devastated for Cleveland fans. And I'm just like, this is awful. And then for 3 quarters, we proceed to watch Jerome Ford go off and do his best Nick Chubb impersonation. And he showed burst, he showed vision, he showed the ability to make a big play. He showed the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. He was a well-rounded back. In fact, you could hear the announcers talking about, I think they might have found something here. And I know that it's hard to stomach the news of Nick Chubb. And no, Jerome Ford is not Nick Chubb. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's going to rush for over 1,000 yards for the next 5 years like Nick Chubb did. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that I don't think he's quite as bad as people think he might be. I think when you were looking at Ford before the last game, it was, oh man, who is this random guy that we have to have give the ball to a few times because you can't give it to Nick Chubb every single time? Or we viewed Jerome Ford as a guy who was a downgrade from Kareem Hunt from before. I don't view that as the case. And I don't think your head coach does either. In an article, Mary Kay Cabot, who does everything Cleveland Browns, Kevin Stefanski reiterates that Jerome Ford is the lead back ahead of Kareem Hunt. Now, he said, we're going to have to figure all this stuff out. We're going to see how ready he is to go, what kind of a thing he can do. We're going to have to figure out Pierre Strong's role and all that kind of stuff. Here's what I'm here to tell you. I don't think that the thought process here was Jerome Ford isn't good enough to be a starting back for the Cleveland Browns. The thought process was Pierre Strong's not good enough to be a second back, because it's the NFL. You cannot have a running back that plays 190 or 80% of your snaps. You need to have a good backup. Kareem Hunt was that for Nick Chubb for many years. But you don't have to look much further. I always like to look at stats in PFF. Kareem Hunt fell off a cliff last year. Okay, he fell off a cliff as far as his ratings went. He averaged 3.8 yards per carry. He only got 468 yards. It was not good. It wasn't great. But now he's back. It says he's lost 10 pounds. He's more fit, and he's ready to prove that he's wrong. All right. Meanwhile, in one game of action, Jerome Ford actually looked closer to what Nick Chubb did, getting similar grades, runs, and everything. And part of it's because he busted off a big run. So he had a 6.6 yards per attempt average. But his run grade was just the same as what Nick Chubb would usually get, low 80s. Nick Chubb could pop into the 90s. Yeah, he could. Oh, my goodness, that guy was good. But Nick Chubb was huge. He always was busting out big runs. It was unbelievable. His knack for busting out big runs, I think we have to give some of that. Of course, we're going to give it to Nick Chubb. He's been phenomenal. But with Stefanski, he's been even better. Last year, Nick Chubb had his best season. He had his best season, not necessarily his most yards per attempt, but his most yards. So, and his highest graded season according to PFF. So, yeah, like it's going well. But I'm telling you right now, I think if you are a Cleveland Brown fan, I think if you are a fantasy football guy that has Ford, I think you're not unhappy. He's 24 years old. All right. He wasn't well known. He's in his second year in the league. He has much less tread on his tires than the 28-year-old, almost 28-year-old Nick Chubb. Like, give the guy a shot. And no, he's never going to be Nick Chubb, but he can be his own good type of player. He really can. All right. I understand there's a big difference between these two guys, but I really do think he can be good. And I think Kareem Hunt is here to back him up. I think he's here because if Jerome Ford gets hurt and all they're left with is Pierre Strong, they're screwed. And they truly believe that they are a playoff caliber team. Now, if they wanted to go out and replace Jerome Ford, I think they would be making a move to try and trade for Taylor. I think they would be making a move. They would have tried to trade for Cam Akers, and they would have tried to get a guy with a little bit higher of a ceiling. Like, you know what Kareem Hunt is, right? He's a 28-year-old declining running back. That's what he is. That's why they didn't bring him back. That's why multiple years ago, they didn't sign him to a longer contract extension, which led to this whole weird thing. Well, then you need to trade me. And then they didn't. And then he played. And it was really weird. But remember, not that long ago, 4 years ago, when they got Kareem Hunt, it was the best back combo in the league. Things change fast at the running back position. But what if the Browns, what if Ford is good? Like, what if you struck gold again? How cool would that be? You know, you think about the Packers, where it's like Favre was great, and then they let him go, and they're like, well, what if Rodgers is great? And Rodgers was great. And now they're wondering the same thing all over again. Well, what if you have another good running back? So I'm just saying, my thought process on this is that, yes, you should be sad. Yes, this hurts your team. No, he is not as good as Nick Chubb. Duh. But what if he's still really good? Is it good enough? And does it maybe force Deshaun Watson to be like, all right, this is my team. I need to be the captain of this offense. I need to run it. They're relying on me to sling it. And you start seeing some better things out of Deshaun Watson as well. I think not having that crutch that is such a good running back in Nick Chubb. I know a good running game is a quarterback's best friend. But sometimes when a guy knows he has to do it, he steps up to the occasion. So this might not be the worst thing in the world. Yes, it's still hard. It's still tough. But Ford may be a future star. All right. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Peace.